welcome to the Taco Cast. I'm Crystal.
I'm Will.
And you're our audience on this lovely Sunday. So, today, Will and I thought we would discuss gardening.
Gardening?
Gardening.
Oh,
Cue audience sound.
I'll put that in post.
Thanks.
Audience cheering. Yay! Gardening! Hot topic! So, what about gardening? What would you like to talk about when it comes to gardening?
So actually, for our garden, our upcoming garden, I had a couple of things I wanted to discuss. First off, I forgot to order garlic in time, so obviously I didn't plant any garlic this fall, so we will have no garlic. And sorry about that.
Your daughter's going to be very disappointed in you.
Yes, she will. We are a garlic family. You know, for the amount of garlic we consume, why do we keep just failing at growing it?
Not always, but most of the time.
Yeah.
It's the bugs.
Well, I mean, we just never plant it.
Well, no, we've planted garlic before. We've been successful at it, but most of the time, bugs get to it.
We had onions before. We did really good at the onions.
Onions are super easy. I could show anybody how to grow onions.
Honeybees loved the onions. They were all over them.
But the main problem is that we have every year when we plant a garden is, well, it's a one-sided thing. You're the idea person. I'm the manual labor. And then I have to get out there with my busy schedule and find time still to weed, water, and care for the garden.
I'm not hearing any problems, though.
Of course you don't hear any. Of course you don't hear any problems. But the problem is on my end is I have a very busy schedule the way it is.
Yeah, gardens are hard to maintain.
They are, especially when someone else plans an enormous garden and they don't take care of it, water it, or do anything else.
Now that is a shame.
Fertilize it, weed it.
Drip lines.
Drip lines are great if you have the money to put into them to maintain them.
We were actually kind of lucky. This house that we bought came with drip lines installed.
Yeah, there is that, so watering the garden is pretty much taken care of, as long as we plant things in the right way. One side of our house has, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 raised garden beds total, and they're made out of pressure treated 2x10s, 2 inches thick, 10-inch. Like these are boards that you would use for a rafter. A floor joist in a house, not a rafters.
Yeah, they're pretty thick.
They are pretty. They're pretty substantial, deep beds. Yeah, but that came with the house, so we don't have to actually do it. It's the maintenance.
So we did
everything else.
When we first moved in. We treated the soil. We put in a little bit of peat moss to help with water retention. Worked some aged manure in.
Yeah.
There was a whole summer where we were getting the beds ready for what we were going to plant. One of the problems, though, or one of the issues that I had every time I went to go get into the garden to work in it, is the tiny man wants to be in there, and he wants to stick his hands in the bees.
Well, this is an issue, yes. And the bees don't want him to stick his hands in the hives.
Yeah, the bees are actually pretty anti anyone sticking their hands in the hives.
Right. And you can't just tell them, look, he's 4.
Yeah.
And them understanding. So, but when it comes to the garden, though, last year we planted a whole lot of tomatoes. And we always plant an overabundance of tomatoes. To the point where, even though we eat a lot of tomatoes, we have so many tomatoes that you can't keep up with eating them because they're ripening constantly. Because of the different type of plants. It's like we were getting done with one group, and then the next group was coming in, and then it, boom, boom, boom. Now we have multiple huge tomato crops.
What was it? An heirloom orange beefsteak, I think it was last year. It was orange.
And Roma. We always plant Roma or some kind of cherry tomato or something like that.
The orange one was the first time we tried it, and it was so good. So good.
So back to the garden that I'm going to have to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the time.
Well, but it's food.
Yeah, it's great.
It's future food.
It's future food. It's all kinds of things, but I just don't have the time. I'm busier this year than I was last year.
Okay.
So,
well, I guess that cuts our episode short then. What are we at? But okay, so let's talk about gardening. No.
it's not that I don't want to talk about garden. The garden that you plant every year.
Have a great Sunday.
Right. I just don't have time to to take care of it by myself.
Well, as long as we find something to go, handle the tiny guy, there's no reason why we can't split the work. The only real issue is that he keeps trying to get into the garden.
He's going to continue to try to get into the garden, and he knows how to get over the fence right now.
Bill and I have been giving serious consideration to possibly having to find another beekeeper to take care of our hives. Because the little guy is able to get over the fence and, maybe, unfortunately, maybe better for us to find someone else who can tend to our hives for us.
Yeah, that's the last resort. I don't really want to have to move them.
I don't want to have to move them.
If I move them anywhere, I would like to move them into an area that is less accessible and put up a better barrier for him to get to.
They're good bees
I was thinking
They're
about
acclimated to this area, which is kind of hard because we have harsh winters, and a lot of the bees that you purchase are from.
We don't have harsh winters. He's
from Minnesota, so harsh winter to him is
Wisconsin,
like,
but
you
you're
can't
close
get out
enough.
of your house. But
Wisconsin,
it's cold. They're all one state. It's just frigid.
I know anything east of Montana is
it's all
one giant state to you.
So, so harsh winter to Will here is you can't get out of your house.
It's summertime to me.
But for normal people, we do have rather harsh winters here, and bees that you purchase, they tend to come from breeders in the south. They start out, basically they use these bees for pollination, and they follow the crops in this kind of like spiraling pattern, and then they will sell their excess bees. And those bees aren't used to hard winters, so you usually have to do a whole lot to keep your bees to overwinter them. That's why it's good to buy stuff like survivor stock and things like that, because they're for this area, they're used to it. And these particular bees, this is what, our third winter with them. They overwinter really well. They're acclimated to our harsh winters.
Whatever. So, back to the garden. Maybe if we found some way to mitigate weed growth, and we planted something besides just tomatoes and garlic.
Actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because there's this Indian muskmelon that I wanted to try. And I've also got...
melon.
Yeah.
Have you seen what we did with raspberries out there?
I don't know what you're talking about.
We killed the raspberries. The raspberries are dead.
No, the raspberries are fine.
No, they're dead. We killed off an entire bed of raspberries that had probably been there for 20 years, because those stalks were bigger than $50 in size.
We've got 2 things of raspberries, and besides, if we killed one, that's more room for melons.
and now think about this though. When you do go to tend to melons, if you plant melons there, you're going to have to be near the bees.
I don't have any problem being near the bees.
Actually, you do.
I don't like the baby sticking his hands in the bees.
Right, but you don't tend to the bees. That's, again, you had the idea and I'm the labor. So I'm the one who takes care of the bees in that aspect. So these are not the most gentle bees like we had at our other place. These ones, they're more hardier bees, but they're easily pissed off.
Yeah. The first hive that we had, they were so mellow. I could crack the top of the hive, pull frames out, check them, put it back in, not wear any protective gear. The bees were just like, hey, what's up? Yeah, we're making tons of honey. Did you want to get in on this? It's great. Okay, see you later. And I got really used to them because they were just a super chill hive. And we got these other bees. I think we bought them I don't remember what breeder we got these bees from. So I'm used to these other bees. That was our first hive, was these super mellow bees, and they were great. So we kept them in our front yard at the time. So I go to check on this new hive that we have, and like I said, I'm used to these old ones. So I crack the top and I pull a frame out, and instantly the whole thing is surrounded by guard bees, and I was like, oh, they seem really mad, and just bees in the face, up the shirt. I'm just bees everywhere. And like I said, I'm in the front yard, so shirt comes off. It's, like I said, full of bees. I got bees in my hair. I go in the house. I'm like, Bill, there's bees on me. And he's just like, why weren't you wearing any protective gear? And then after we get all of the bees out of the hair and everything, I was like, well, the other bees are super chill. I didn't know these guys were going to be jerks.
Yeah, they are. They're I wouldn't say they're more towards the aggressive end, but they are definitely not like the first bees that we
They're dicks.
Had. Well, okay, all right. Well, you can go with that if that's what you you prefer to But that hive we're going to have to split.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So back to the garden. What were you besides some weird melon that probably will not grow in our area? It's probably some heirloom variety that if you spray it with some kind of pesticide, it will come back and box you for 9 rounds.
That would actually be really awesome. I would grow that. I do prefer to grow heirlooms because I like to harvest seeds if it's something that I like. And the thing that I like about heirloom plants is that they will breed true. There's nothing wrong with hybrids. It's just if you're a seed saver, your hybrids are not, whatever you plant from the seeds that you save aren't going to be what you grew. It's going to be the parent plants. So I prefer heirlooms because I seed save. But there is nothing wrong with hybrids.
So anybody who lived through the 80s and the crack epidemic, I have a whole bunch of the little crack vials in our I do in our kitchen in the windowsill, so anybody can see them. But they're filled with seeds from previous harvested.
They are not crack vials.
Oh, they look like crack vials.
They are reagent vials that I cleaned and brought home.
They look like crack vials
to save seeds in.
You can call them whatever you want, but they look just like crack vials. I swear I have a picture somewhere on one of my old computers of the mayor of Chicago with a vial, or maybe it was that guy from Canada.
Oh yeah,
the one that OD'd.
Yeah,
who had that crack vial with him.
The one who tried to defend his crack habit with his rampant alcoholism.
Right.
What was that guy's name?
But they're still crack vials. Whichever she can call them whatever she wants.
They're not. They're reagent vials. I cleaned them out.
Okay, they look like crack vials. The only difference is one has a clear top, and these ones have black tops. Oh wait a minute, they both had black tops. Yeah. Okay, so obviously Crystal has a huge crack problem.
There's someone at Becton Dickinson right now who's just like, dude, rude.
So, yeah. But back to the garden itself, though. I don't want the far raised bed. I was actually, those 2 beds themselves, I was thinking about taking out completely.
Why?
Well, 2 reasons. One, the underground sprinkler pipe that feeds that system and those beds is broken.
Okay, that's a good reason.
And I have to dig up the one bed to be able to fix it, because the people who put it in, they put the pipes in this way parallel to them, and then they moved. You can see where the beds were, and they moved them, so now the pipes run underneath them. And those pipes are also feeding the drip line in those beds.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a good reason, but I'd like to put them back.
No, I don't think so.
I'd like to grow asparagus. I love asparagus. My grandfather had a pretty big asparagus patch.
Yeah, but we suck at it.
Yeah, never.
We really do.
And corn, we have tried to grow corn. Every single year something has happened to it. We had this weird fungus. We had this bacterial infection or something. We had one year we actually got ears of corn. We were so excited, and then when we went to go open each ear of corn, they were full of these nasty bug things, and I was just like, that's it. Obviously I'm not meant to grow corn.
Earwigs.
Yeah, but there's these other ones that were kind of looked like a beetle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so clearly I'm just not meant to grow corn. I'm meant to purchase corn.
Well, and the thing is we don't spray with like Roundup or anything like that. We can't because of the bees. So we have to whatever we grow or in the garden has to be organic in nature, or it has to have a natural herbicide or pesticide that we use around the bees.
And speaking of which, if you're going with organic pesticides, you need to be careful which ones you pick, because some of them, just because they're labeled as organic doesn't necessarily mean that they're good for beneficial pollinators, like what is it, diatomaceous earth? I'm not entirely. It kills all bugs. It gets in. So when bugs breathe, they've got like these little sheets for lungs. They call them book lungs, and it gets in there and just shreds their lungs. All insects. So while it's technically organic, it's bad for all insects. So. But
I'd like to. Where the two raised beds are now, I'd like to add a compost bin there, one of those tumblers. Like your mom has one she's not using, and I've kind of been eyeing it every time I go over there to help her with her garden.
I was thinking we could move your project cars and we could extend the garden into where your project cars currently are.
My project cars?
Yeah, the RV and.
So where would you like to put the RV? You can't put it on the street in our city because that's illegal. In our housing division, you can't have it on the street. I know people do it all the time, and they get warnings and they get ticketed and everything else. And we don't want to get into an issue with the housing board over a freaking RV on the street. So we're not doing that. There's no place else to put it unless we move it to one of those storage facilities, like down there on the other end of town. They have huge storage
just
facilities.
Move it closer to the street, and then we can just move the garden.
It's already as close to the street as it can get. It just happens to be the length of our driveway.
There's a huge section of sidewalk you're not parked on.
That's true. Screw those old people. They can walk around it. And those disabled people and the little children, they can walk around it.
I mean, really.
Why aren't they out in the middle of the road?
Give them some delicious tomatoes from our garden. They'll understand
just
why
put
we
it right
needed
there
that
on the
space.
front of it and say, "Here, eat a tomato while you're being hit by a car." I can see your point there. Here's a fresh tomato. That's your last meal.
So,
and the way people whip around it, some of these younger teenagers, the way they whip around in our division over here.
We got a little bit off topic, but I did purchase some corn.
Corn?
Yeah, it's an early variety of corn that's supposed to make...
Why?
I know we just talked about how we can't grow corn, but I've got a plan. Okay, so...
Her plan is flawed. Oh, she hasn't told us. She hasn't even. I'm sorry, she hasn't told us yet. What is your plan now?
So this is an early variety of corn, like super early. Corn is heavily genetically modified. Humans have been breeding and crossbreeding and screwing with corn since we discovered that you could put it in your face hole. So,
doesn't corn come from maize?
Yeah. Corn has
maize don't look anything like corn.
Yeah. So when people think of GMOs, they think of, I took this piece of squid DNA and I inserted it, into this turnip, and now I've got calamari turnip, and
can you get that?
No, you can't.
I like calamari.
Yeah. So
I don't like turnips though. Can we get a strawberry squid?
No, that's gross.
That sounds good.
No, it doesn't. It
I like
sounds
strawberries.
the opposite of good.
I like strawberries and I like squid.
This is where stuff that is good is, and this is where strawberry squid is. It's you can't even see it. It's so far down.
Well, I don't think the strawberry squid would taste like squid. I think it would be, just taste like a strawberry.
No, still bad.
Okay.
Still bad. So when people think of GMOs, that's what they think of, right? Now, it's also important to think that DNA isn't necessarily human DNA, squid DNA. DNA just codes for protein. So wherever you get that DNA from, it's not going to grow a person or a squid.
Doesn't Monsanto own DNA? Or is it Dow Chemical? One of them, I think, bought DNA.
You're not supposed to be able to, although there's a lot of loopholes in those patents. And Monsanto is a shit company. And I am pro GMO because, like I said, humans have been doing it.
Yeah, but you don't buy GMO. What do you buy that's non-GMO? Shampoo, maybe?
Like I just said, humans have been screwing with corn well before DNA manipulation. So just because we did it the old-fashioned way by crossing one thing and one thing doesn't mean we haven't modified the genes in that. It just takes longer to do that. So if you buy corn, any corn on the market nowadays, you are buying a genetically modified organism.
Well, my question would then be, let's just hypothetically say that we are able to finally, after 25 years, grow corn. All right, and we are able to harvest our first batch of corn.
Woot!
Let's just hypothetically say we do that. And let's say that each plant yields 6 ears of corn. All right? I think 6 is on the small end, right?
I think this one actually only does like 2.
2?
Yeah,
only 2 ears?
You get 2 ears per.
2 ears.
No, I have a plan.
Okay, but no, let's hypothetically say, to stick with my thought logic here, and let's just say it's 2, and we put in 6 plants. That's 12 ears of corn. And we've eaten corn on the cob 0 times in 2020.
Oh, I've eaten corn on the cob a number of times.
How many times have you eaten corn on the cob in 2020?
At least 12, at least 14 times.
Oh my God. You've been holding out on me.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't eat corn on the cob. I don't like it.
I love corn on the cob.
I mean, when I was a younger kid, I mean, we used to, my grandmother used to make this, it was kind of like, what do they call that? But it's crawdads, mud puppies. She would steam an entire basket of it. We would catch them in the Mississippi and in the St. Croix. And then she would put potatoes and corn and everything else in the basket, and then boil it all. And then she'd put it on these big, huge, like metal trays, and that's what we'd eat.
I mean, if you like water bugs, it sounds delicious.
Mud puppies.
It's not making it sound better.
Well, no, it's not supposed to. How about crawdads? You call them whatever you want, but baby lobsters.
Also not better. And I don't think crawdads are related to lobsters, are they?
I don't know, and nor do I care. The point is that there's about 1 million different names for them. Regionally, people call them different things, but more people know them as mud puppies or crawdads or something along that line.
So you might actually.
But back to the actual corn, though.
Yes.
Sticking to the corn, you ate corn on the cob 14 times last year.
Yep.
I had it 0 times. How many times did your son eat it?
Eat it?
How many times?
Or just kind of poke at it?
You can present him with a lot of food. How many times did he actually?
He didn't.
Okay. How many times do you think your daughter ate corn on the cob?
Okay. Before we continue down this
No, this is it. We're at the last person who lives in our house.
I'm saying it doesn't matter because I didn't buy the corn for corn on the cob. I told you I had a plan. You kept interrupting, and he never heard the plan.
What are you getting, pigs?
He never heard the plan.
Go ahead. Let's hear your plan for the corn.
I love cornbread. Fucking love cornbread. It's delicious. I love it. So, while researching how to make the perfect cornbread, I discovered a variety of corn that is supposed to make the perfect cornmeal. As I purchased said corn to make cornmeal to make cornbread.
That's 5 more steps than you will ever do.
It's not the point. Cornbread. And it's supposed to be the best cornbread, and I'm going to make it, and it's going to be
you have
delicious.
to plant it first, water it, fertilize it, weed it, and get it to grow and actually produce. That's 5 extra steps.
That's
and
why I have
harvest
a
it,
husband.
dry it. Well, this is absolutely true. This is what my job is to take care of all the projects that you start like this.
Not all of them. Anything involving a hot glue gun, I can't get you to do.
That's true. I can't do anything with a hot glue gun.
Babe,
I have so many skills.
Glue these pom-poms onto this shirt for me. Where are you going?
Yeah, I know. I fail you in so many different ways.
I know. Seriously, I'm just like, wear this shirt so I can glue these pom-poms on it. And he's like, no, you'll burn me. I'm like, psh.
But again,
You gotta sacrifice for the ugly Christmas
back to the
sweater.
garden. We'll stick to the garden.
I have
Not
a plan.
pom-pom.
That cornbread is going to be...
Okay, so I want to put in a compost tumbler. I was also thinking about root vegetables.
Oh, carrots. We eat so many carrots. I love carrots.
Carrots, potatoes, parsnips.
Sweet potatoes.
Sweet
not
potatoes?
Yams. Actual sweet potatoes. I hate when people get sweet potatoes confused with yams. They're not the same thing.
Okay, but yeah, things like that. I mean, things that we actually eat, and we actually can get our child to eat right now.
Carrots. He's getting better at eating carrots.
And potatoes.
Getting a vegetable in that kid is a fight.
He loves potatoes. So, and he likes the sweet potato fries that I make him.
He's all about meat. Like we're sitting here eating dinner one day. So he's eating his food. He's eating his food, and with his head still down, just reaches over, grabs a chunk of roast off Bill's plate.
Yeah. We don't have we don't have any roast plants.
Yeah, you do.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. There's roast plants. They're called cows.
Yeah. They're not a plant, though.
Sure they are.
Okay.
They're just a mobile meat plant.
A mobile meat plant. That is true. They are a mobile meat plant. But, all right, so, but that's what I would like to plant. And then we always plant tomatoes. And you want to plant corn.
Specifically.
In the garden right now, that's going to come back every single year, we're going to have to deal with the artichoke. There's artichokes. That one entire bed was nothing but artichokes.
Elizabeth likes artichokes. There's no reason not to leave them.
Celery?
Did you know the artichoke is related to the thistle?
Yes, I knew that. But celery, you know, that'd be an easy one to grow.
Yeah.
Take care of. Then we have take care of the fencing first. You know, before we plant anything.
Those recipes we've been doing call for shallots a lot. We should see about growing shallots.
Shallots are just like onions. They're so easy to grow. You can grow them in a flower pot.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter. You can live in an urban environment, and you can grow shallots or green onions. I'm
a huge advocate of urban gardening, container gardening.
Yeah. Community
gardens.
All you got to do is get some well drained soil. Put it in a pot. You start off, put some fine mesh screen on the bottom so it stops the stuff from draining out. Put rocks in it, and then layer it from bigger rocks to smaller rocks. About the bottom 4 inches of the actual pot itself, and then a good neutral soil to start, and then the next layer, and then your actual potting soil mixture, along with your seeds. Or you can grow them from scratch. Like green onions. All you do is just buy green onions at the store and just take your finger and stick a hole in the ground and stick the green onion in there and push a little soil around them. That'll grow into an onion, ladies and gentlemen.
The same thing Will and I were talking about with garlic. So yeah, we keep eyeballing various varieties of garlic that we want to buy, and keep missing the deadline for purchasing it. But garlic that you buy at the store, you can just plant that in the ground.
Yeah. Celery, go buy a stalk of celery, and then take the bottom 4 inches of the actual stalk of celery, plant that in the ground, 2 inches in the ground, 2.5 inches in the ground, so you have just the bottom part of it just sticking up out of the ground. It'll grow. It'll take a year, but it will grow another head of celery.
Yeah.
And then next year you just come in and you cut that celery off right there, at the ground. You leave the the root ball in the ground, and it'll just keep on growing every year. Same thing with rhubarb and and so many others that are like that.
Yeah.
I mean, continuously, you'll have that cycle of vegetables. Same thing with asparagus. But our problem is with asparagus is we always get root rot, and it kills it. So, because we're not very good at it.
it's a work in progress.
I bet you could talk your mother into growing it for us, though.
Mama's already growing some purple asparagus. She'll have her harvest next year.
Well, talk her into turning another, acre for
We also have a gentleman in this area who wanders around every year shortly after the asparagus harvest with the biggest bag of asparagus I've ever seen, selling asparagus super cheap.
I have a friend who does what they call culling for asparagus, and after they harvest asparagus, the farmers just let him go onto the property and cut whatever the hell's been missed, and he can have it and do whatever he wants with it. A lot of what he picks, he ends up canning.
My grandmother was a member of the Gleaners Club.
Yeah, it's basically they're called the cullers here.
Yeah, go in behind the harvest and take whatever's left over, whatever the harvesting missed, and it's usually stuff that's not necessarily sellable, the smaller fruits, the uglier fruits, but still edible.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how much produce Americans throw away because it's not aesthetically pleasing. Either it's an apple with maybe one side of it grew against the tree, so it's not completely red all the way around. And it's a perfectly good apple that tastes the same. There's no taste difference anywhere in the apple at all, but because it has that yellow spot on it, people won't buy it and they end up throwing it right into the trash.
Well, lots of times those
we could be, a lot of that stuff could be going to like food banks and stuff like that, but that's a totally different subject. But back to the garden though. Besides this weird melon and corn that apparently you're growing for cornmeal, what else do you want to grow?
The melon, the corn. I was looking at tomatoes, but we're going to get volunteers from last year, so I figured let's just go with them, rather than buying new tomatoes. You already planted some blueberries for me, which, delicious. Carrots. I was eyeballing different varieties of carrots. I think I just want to get a rainbow mix. Toss it in there. Garlic, but obviously missed the boat. Shallots. I'm thinking about the shallots, the sweet potatoes, lots of root vegetables. Love me some root vegetables. So here's a tip for everyone. When I was doing my seed shopping, a lot of the seed companies let me know on the website that they're expecting big delays. So start your seed shopping early. Usually wherever you buy your seeds from, they're gonna have a chart so you can see, you can pick your area and it'll tell you when you can start your seeds indoors. Some stuff you can start indoors, some stuff is better to plant directly in the ground. Melons are kind of a give or take. They grow better if you just plant them directly in the ground. You can start them from seed, but they can be a little bit of a jerk, so maybe do several because one of them's probably gonna die. Anyways, so go to your favorite seed company, see where your area is at, when you can start starting your plants indoors to grow, and then see what the estimated shipping time is. You may want to start ordering your seeds now because with the anticipated shipping delays, you want to make sure that you get them in time.
If you're looking for heirloom tomatoes, I highly suggest checking out Tomato Bob at tomatobob.com. He has, some of the largest selection of heirloom vegetables, but we really love his heirloom tomato varieties. And, a lot of these are heirloom varieties that he can guarantee have never been crossed with anything else. A lot of them later on became, weird, genetically altered ones that you'd find in the grocery store. But not that there's anything wrong with that. But if you want to go back to where the tomato actually really started from, and what people were picking, your grandparents were picking, and what they were able to buy in the stores versus what's out there now.
Yeah, and lots of times also there'll be a little bit of a history with the seed. So a lot of these heirloom varieties are things that have been rediscovered. People clearing out old properties, and they're like, oh, shit, what is this, So there'll be a little history of the seed, where it was originally, if it's something that's been rediscovered, who rediscovered it, and also what that varietal went on to be, We have, there's also a site, Trees of Antiquity, that sells older varieties of fruit trees, and we have one that is the precursor to the Bing cherry.
Mountain cherry is what we have growing. Mountain cherry.
So,
but yeah, there's when it comes to growing heirloom varieties of certain vegetables, you do have to pay closer to attention to trying to keep certain pests away from them, because you have to understand they're not as hardy, and being able to fend themselves off from bugs is as well as other varieties. So it's like you can go buy a beefsteak tomato variety now, and the thing is, it's a mutant, and it'll come back every year, and it'll keep on coming back until the end of time, and then it'll still be coming back after time is when humans are all gone. But
a lot of the commercial stuff was bred for shelf life, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You've got to transport produce across the country, sometimes into other countries. You have to have good shelf life. But in a lot of cases, something's been sacrificed, and that usually tends to be flavor. If you're in a position to be able to grow stuff for yourself and you want to give it a try, I would suggest starting with a tomato, if you enjoy tomatoes, because they are really easy to grow. I like to brag about my amazing tomato growing skills. It doesn't take me anything. Literally just put a seed in the ground and it'll do its fucking thing.
I was going to say quickly, there is nothing that you will taste that is better than black rose. Black rose tomato it looks, grow to about the size of a beefsteak tomato, but when you cut it open, the inside is a deep, deep red, and the outside is kind of a medium red color, but the flavor is to die for. Why people are not using that for more pasta sauces. I grow it, and then I make my own marinara sauce, and can it. We have a lot of canning supplies, but
I canned a lot of tomatoes last year. Anyways, yeah, if you're wanting to give it a whirl and you're just starting out, I would suggest starting with a tomato. They're really easy to grow, and quick tip. There's two different varieties. There's determinate and there's indeterminate. What that means is it's talking about the plant's final size. A determinate plant grows to a particular height and stays there. An indeterminate tomato plant just keeps growing. If you've got the space, that's awesome. If you're in limited space, get a determinate plant, because then you'll know how big it's going to be. So again, for some of these plants, like a cherry tomato, if that's something that you enjoy eating, get a smaller cherry tomato plant and you'll be able to harvest those tomatoes all year round.
Unless you live in a colder climate than here. Because again, you don't live in a climate that is a harsh winter. If you live in Wisconsin or Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, someplace like that, nothing lives outside anymore. It's all dead.
Said container,
it's all
which
frozen.
Means you get to bring that little bad boy inside. They heard me.
Okay, so I think we've pretty much wrapped up what you want to plant for your garden and what I'm going to end up having to take care of. What else is there about the garden? Watering. Do you have any tips for fertilizing?
I use manure. I use manure. It's what we used on my grandparents' farm. It's what my mom uses. It's what I use. Poop is an amazing fertilizer.
It is. As long as you're not putting it directly on a...
oh yeah, no. You want to use aged manure, and you want to work it into the soil. You don't want to just be like...
You don't want to just go out and grab it
Yeah.
from your horse and throw it into it, a garden bed. But for pesticides, marigolds work great for keeping certain insects away. Garlic will keep other pests away from other crops. So you can plant garlic around certain pumpkins, cucumbers, and the garlic will help keep away certain pests.
Yeah, that's true. Don't feel experiment. Get online, look up companion plants, and you'll be able to find a wealth of information about what plants you can grow together.
Tomato Bob's actually lists, along with their heirloom variety of tomatoes, they list a whole host of companion plants that you can plant next to each other. And try it out. Anything else?
No, I think we're good. I hope everybody has a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week.